Hey guys, welcome back. In the last episode, we got that new AMD trunk floor pan all welded in, ground down. It looks great. Really happy with how it's come out. The next step is to get the trunk floor drop down extensions on both sides in here, mocked up. We want to get the wheel houses repaired where necessary. We've got a couple brackets to make, and really just to get those extensions all ready to go for the next step, which would be to get the quarter skins now mated up and mocked up on the car, and importantly, fit properly to the extensions. So in this episode, we're going to get those extensions in here, get them all mocked up, like I said, get those all rocking. So let's get busy. Okay, here are the extensions here. We've got the driver on the left, passenger on the right. From the last episode, we know that we've got some pieces that we need to attach. Here are the rear bumper brackets or braces, and so these will weld on to the back like so. So we'll have to position that properly. The far bumper bracket bolt uh, bolts into this area here. So I'm going to make sure that's all dressed in properly. And then the other piece that we've got to deal with are these braces. These extend out past the rear tail panel brace that connects the frame rails together. This extends out on either side and provides additional support to the rear of the car and to the extensions. So this one isn't too bad. It's passenger side, but it's not great. The driver's side is definitely far gone. We need to make a new one of those. So I think what we're going to do is make two new ones. That'll be uh, this piece here is just trash, but I kept this over here just as a really a guide to the new piece I'm going to make. But anyhow, those two pieces are what we'll do last. The first thing that we need to do is start to fit these extensions in to see just how they are going to fit in the car. And to do that, we're going to get a little bit more space created here on the car. I'm going to take out a little bit more of the quarter panel here, just so I have more visibility to how the brace is coming in. And I also want to take this rear tire off on both sides so I can get access to the back side of the wheel well, because we will have some minor repairs to do on the lip of the wheelhouse there. So I'm going to get the car jacked up, get the wheel off, and we're going to just make an incision here and get some more space in this quarter area so I can really work with the extension the way it needs to be. Okay, I've got the car up on stands, wheels are off, and I went ahead and got some of the undercoating removed because it's still pretty caked on under the car here in the wheelhouse area especially. But I had to take this area off here just so I could work with this lip. But it just was nice to be able to get some of this undercoating off to really see the condition of the wheelhouses. And you can see, like, for a 50-year-old car, wow. I don't think I've ever worked on a car that had wheelhouses that were this old in this good a shape. So we're blessed with that, along with many other areas of the car. Anyhow, we will have some work to do right here. And so we'll leave that. I'm not going to touch that until I know what it is I want to create. It's probably going to be a lip that comes down like this, but the other side is also fairly damaged, so I won't know what I want to create there to make it look nice until I get the extension in. But it will look something like a lip coming up through here. Not worried about that right now. Just know that that's going to be a work that I'm going to have to do right here. A little bit of welding here. You know, I've got the two spot welds, plug welds I need to do to the trunk floor. Got the hole here and a hole here. And a hole here. So we'll weld all that up and grind it off nice so that looks all finished. Remembering that all here underneath is going to be body color. So it'll be media blasted, epoxy primed. If necessary, some body work, light filler work to make it look nice, and then it'll be body color under here. So want this to be dressed up really nice, just like I've done on the other cars. So next step right now is we're going to just get us a little bit more space along this quarter area so I can really work with the extension when it's in the car. So I'm going to come in here and we're going to take just a little bit more off with the cutoff wheel. Let's get going with that. So now you can see that with the outer wheelhouse coming down there, I've got full access to where the trunk extension is going to mount up here. So that's what we needed there. And then I think we've got enough space over here. So let's get that extension and let's see how it fits in here. All right, well, very strange. We've got good fitment along here, and if you can see that, you can kind of see that to the back. However, this piece over here is not sitting the way that I think it needs to. Got some issues there. This needs to get modified so I can slide it over. Okay, I'm going to get a paint marker, and we're going to mark where I think we need to either bend or cut so that that extension can slide over almost an inch. It's level this way, and it's level this way, so I think we're good here. This is normal, fairly sure. Got to make sure that this is flat here. I will double check that to make sure that the floor of this matches up here, or does it match up here? Because you can see that we've got quite a step here. So I'll check that. But I know that this has to be flush. I know that that's got to be flush up too. So, okay, we're going to get in here and make a mark. So we'll do that next. Okay, you can see the problem we're running into right here. So we want this lip because that's going to match up with the quarter skin and continue on from the outer wheelhouse. So we want that. We don't want to damage this too much, but you can see that we've got too much here. So I'm going to cut here, and we'll just cut it. We won't cut it off. We'll cut it and we'll peel this back this way so it can slide over. And this piece here is also interfering with the outer wheelhouse. So we just need to make sure that it's bent. I don't think I want to cut that yet. I'm going to bend it up or down, either way. Down will give us something to spot weld to against the wheelhouse. So maybe that's what we'll do. We'll bend this piece down. And if we bend this, we could bend that in too. No, let's bend that one out, bend that one down. And then I think we'll have what we need here in terms of room to move it over, because this is essentially the width that we're missing to slide this extension all the way over. And this is exactly why I wanted to cut the rest of that quarter skin off, because to do this with that extra quarter skin piece on here would have been hard. So, okay, I'm gonna just zip that real quick and I'll pick you up. Okay, I've got the corner here modified. I cut that flap like I said that I would and moved it out, and then I've just bent this piece in so that it's not restricting it sliding over. Let's have a look and see how things go now. Yeah, that's almost it. Let me get my vice grips. We'll just pinch these lips together. A little bit. Not that much. Ugh. Right about there. Let's get one back here. That's close. A little bit of work to do, but let me get you in here a little better and show you what's going on. Okay. You can see that right here we're flush. This looks like it's in pretty good position right here. This way we know we're good. So I'm feeling pretty good about this fitment here. It's a little high here, and I think what's driving this height here is where this is bent over on the extension. It's currently hitting the brace down there, and so I need to make a slice inside this flange here so that this can push down a little further because it's sitting up a little high, and you can even see that on the back here that extension needs to come and mate up here because this is where the old one was. So it's up, I want to say, half an inch to 5/8 of an inch anyway. So we've got to address that. So we're going to do that quick. You can see we're getting good fitment over here. I like how that is. It's got to come down. I'm going to do that quick. I'm going to put that slice in, and then we'll try this fitment again. Okay, I've just notched that out in the back here. So let's try this once again. Okay, I am able to get that to sit down now where I think it needs to be. It sits high here, but if I recall, the Charger or the Cuda, maybe both, were the same way. Flush at the back, flush at the front, and there was this lip here. I will verify that, but I think that's where that needs to go. And if I can use this as a guide, I now have where the extension is meeting up with the tail panel where I can do my spot welds. So I think this is directionally where it needs to go. One of the things I can do now is I know that this is where the bumper bolt we'll go through, and you recall that we've got that brace or bracket that needs to weld onto the extension. It needs to line up here with the hole. So let's just use that as a guide. Let me grab that bracket, put it on here, and see how things line up. Okay, this is the bracket I was referring to. This is where the bumper bolt goes through. Let's just see how this is going to fit. Just got a little dolly work to do here because this is sticking out too far. So let me address that quick. Okay, got that bent to where I think it needs to be now. Let's see what that does. All right, so we know that this flange has to sit flush against the extension. That's a given. We also know that this outer edge needs to come up flush. I'll give you a look on the other side. It needs to come up flush, more or less like that. It looks like it needs to be dollied in just a little bit so that it'll sit a little nicer along that extension. But that's a minor detail that likely got out of whack when I took it off the old piece. So anyway, that goes flush this way. We know that this one needs to sit flush towards the extension. And importantly, we know that this hole needs to line up for the bumper bolt. So what that does is it forces the extension into location. And so now you can see that we've got all of the space that we need for all of our plug welds, both here and also on this lip here too. Here, if you can see, yeah, there. So it forces the alignment of the extension. And what that does is it confirms that the floor is flush back here and this part is raised. And as I said, I think it was the same on either the Charger or the Cuda, perhaps both. It's been too long, memory's failing me, but this is, I think, the desired look. We know we're flush here. So right now, that extension is in very close to its final position. And that tells us in the front the kind of lip that we need to create up front here to match up with that extension. So I want to say that that is currently mocked up in the right location. Okay, I wanted to just take this brace. You'll recall that this is the one that's least mangled. Just cleaned it up a little bit for mocking up here. And so I just wanted to, now that we've got the extension in a place where we think it's going to live, let's just take this and see if this is going to work. Okay. This is where it goes. However, I can see already the issue is right here. Maybe you can see that too, but I need more space right here in that extension flange so that this can slide up. It needs to slide flush against all of that. And then, of course, the bottom will fit in there. And then lengthwise, I think we're going to be okay, I think. But I won't know for sure until I get this widened up. So we're going to just widen this gap right here. You can see how it's slid over this tail panel brace anyway. So we're going to make that a little wider, and we'll do this all over again. Just before we pull that extension back out to widen that gap, one thing I want to do, because I know that I've got the extension roughly where it needs to be, I'm going to just mark up here where this brace is going to go. I want to get all of this E-coat off because we're approaching a time where pretty soon we're going to want to start to secure this with self-tappers. And for this piece, actually, we might even weld it, but we want to at least get this all this E-coat cleaned off. This edge here and the other edge over here, as well as really all the areas that we think we're going to eventually weld up on the car. I want to get all that E-coat off. So let's mark this on this side as well. Just looking for a rough outline. We'll just get that all sanded off nice. Okay. And I think that's it. Okay, I've got the surface areas of this extension all cleaned up, ready for weld through primer. So just wanted to get that done as a step towards finishing this piece. Now, this gap here is now widened, so we should be able to get our bracket there. So let's get this back up in here, get it tacked in there with vice grips. Okay, I think that's in where it needs to be. Now let's try that brace in the bottom. Okay, so now this should slide in more or less like that. It's very close. Maybe some cleanup to do right there, but I need some more vice grips, but that's more or less what we're looking for here. It's just gotta come out. Yeah, like that. As I think. Let's just get over here, yeah. Oh yeah, I see. Actually, it's out of whack a little bit. It's gotta fit like more, kind of like this. I'm gonna need to do some hammer dolly work, but this flange, hopefully you can see that right here, comes out this way, and it needs to meet up with this area of the extension. So this flange here. So you can see the extension's going to need to come in a little bit. It'll get pinched towards that. The degree of which will still be a variable until we get the skin on here. But that's what we're looking for. Okay. Okay, I think the next step we're going to tackle is we're going to get this bumper bracket brace welded onto the extension. I think we're safe to do that. I've taken this off and I've just gone through and cleaned it up again, made sure all the surfaces were ground down to clean metal. I covered it with weld-through primer, and I've done the same with the extension itself. I'm not going to weld it to the car. That's going to wait until the skin is ready to get mocked up with the extension. But I'm pretty sure that it's safe to go ahead and weld this on. I'm going to use it as a locator because it's got the bumper hole there. And so let's go ahead and get it mocked up and ready for a weld. I think that's where I want it. So let's get some self-tappers. We're going to get this secured, and then we're going to weld up those holes. If you're wondering about the color of that weld-through primer, I ran out of my usual stuff from Seymour, so I've got this other stuff from the body shop store in town here, and it's just a different color, but it should be fine. It's still weld-through primer, so it should do what we need to do. Okay, so I've got this flush against the extension this way. I'm going to make it flush this way, and I've got it located properly where it needs to be. And so let's get at least one self-tapper in here to get some tacks going. See, I just want to hit that with a hammer and dolly if I can, and bring that flange down just a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in here, but I'm going to try. Okay, I think we're good for a weld there, and then we'll do a little bit more on that one. I might need to draw it closer with the self-tapper, but I'd like to get, when I put these pieces together, I want them to be as clean and flush as possible. So let's get a self-tapper on the other side now and get ready to hack it in with weld. Okay, got those plug welds all done. We can grind them off later if we like. And we've got those done. So that bracket is securely on there now for sure and ready to go. Okay, it's time to work on making both of these brackets. I've got some 18 gauge and I'm just going to line it up like that, more or less. And I'm going to just make this a little bigger than I need it to be, and we'll trim it. We'll get the angles right. That'll be a bend there and a bend here, and this will be cut off that way, and then we'll do our trim down here that more or less cut that off that way. It'll end up having a chamfer on that side there a bit, and then we'll bend to fit this one here. First thing we're going to do is get this cut out, and then we're going to put in two of our bends here so that we can overlap it with this piece, and then we'll know where we're going to be at for the final bend. Okay, let's get that going. Okay, got this piece cut out, and now we're ready to start marking our bends. So this is the way that we're going to make this piece. So I know that these flanges are all 5/8 of an inch. So now that I've got this more or less in the shape that I want, with that as our guide, we're going to get rid of these lines here. A little bit of acetone. And I'm going to mark out the two bends that we need. You know that there's a cut there, and that's going to make it a little easier for us to do our bending. So we're going to go ahead and cut that right now. Looks to be, I'm not going to measure that, 1/2 inch down, more or less like this. Okay, so we're going to cut that. Let's just do that real quick. Okay, this is not perfect, but you know, it's going to be good enough for what we're doing here. So now let's go get two bends. They both have to bend in this way, and then we'll fit on here, and we'll mark our last bend, do a little bit of trimming, and that's going to be our piece. Let's go for it. Yeah, that's going to do it once we get this to lay flat. So next thing we need to do here is mark where that bend is going to be. Roughly there. So we want to go and get this cut off. and go get that cut off. And then we might as well, yeah, we'll go and get that cut off. And then we'll do a bend here and make sure that we're happy. And then we'll trim this edge because right now it's about an inch and it needs to be 5/8. So let me cut that real quick and we'll come back and do the final bend. Okay, got that cut off. And now we're ready to bend it this way. Need a little bit more off that. Okay. Beautiful. We'll just do a little bit of trimming there. We'll trim this. It's a little bit long. And yeah, let's do that right now. Let's just mark it off. So we'll come in here and we'll trim that. We'll trim that. We'll trim that off. Well, that's the old piece. And then we'll trim here. I'll follow that line over. We know where we have to cut there. I think that, interesting. Not quite sure how the original piece went. It looks like this comes up and goes this way, but yet it has this piece protruding. We'll leave it long, so we'll do this. We'll do that. Okay. I'm gonna get this all cut off and we'll double check everything. Okay, so we've got the old piece and the new piece matches up once it's pressed in very well. So I think we're good to go. Why don't we go try that in the car and see how she goes. All right, let's see how this fits in there. Oh, that's not right, is it? This way. Oh, yeah. Really, I think the biggest issue right now is what I think was the same issue on the other piece, and that is that this flange starts to separate, and so the angle might be wrong. It matches the original piece, we know that. What we don't yet know is where this extension is actually going to live to the quarter skin that's going to come down. So I think this is all we can do for now. Well, I mean, it shouldn't have that much variability. It's strange. So it's flush on the top. We know that. I've got material over here. So it seems to me that we just want to adjust that bend a little bit to make this fit better. So this bend here needs to come at a more flat angle there. So I'm going to go do that and come right back. Okay, I went back and forth a little bit just to get that angle right. You can see now that I've got it set up right over here. I've got it nice and flat on top. At least I did. There we go. And it runs the length nicely of that extension and will give me all the area I need to do plug welds. So we'll have plug welds here, we'll have plug welds on top, and we'll have plug welds over here from this side of the tail panel. So I think we are good to go. We can't weld this in yet. We want to leave this until we've got the skin mated up. We'll make any final adjustments once the skin once we know the skin is lined up with the bottom edge of this extension and secured, then we'll come in here and we'll do our final fit and weld on this bracket. Giddy up! Okay, I think I've gone as far as I can go on this extension in mocking it up, getting it prepped that I can without having the skin on to finalize position and then, of course, weld it up. You'll notice that I have not yet bothered to look at this lip at the front. And the reason why I'm going to leave this for now is because I don't yet know how far up or down this is going to be so that it meets up with the bottom lip and mainly the bottom lip of that new quarter skin. That's going to move this up or down, and I think it would be better to wait until I have that mocked up, and then I can come in here from the other side likely and make the piece necessary to fit this properly. It's going to be a very simple piece, I think, to make, but I just don't think that I want to get too ahead of myself on making that, getting it fitting right, and then finding out later that this is going to come up or down and then have to adjust it. So I'd like to wait on that. So with the passenger side done, I think it's time now to turn our attention to the driver's side. I'm going to go through the same process. I'm going to start by cutting out more of the quarter so I can get access to this like I did the other. And then we're going to go ahead and see a test fit with this extension. And that's where I'll pick you up next. Okay, same process. Let's see if she fits without any mods. Same issue. Same issue. Jackson. Okay, so we're gonna bend this down like we did before, and bend that out. All right, let me make the same modification and we'll go back. Let's try that again. There we go. All right, same process. Gonna have to notch here too. Same as we did over there. So I'm gonna paint that up. Do that notch. Until I find it. There it is. Okay, I'll put a 1/2 inch notch right there. Sorry, not 1/2 inch. 3/8 will be all I need, like I did the other side. And then that will allow this to sit down where it needs to. And then I'm good here. That's where it needs to go right there. The angle, again, we don't fully know until the quarter skin is in and we've got that mated up, but it's at least fitting now where it needs to. So once we get this notched out, we can vice grip it in and then work on this bumper brace back here as well. Okay, let's get that done. Okay, got the notch out there. Let's get this back in and see how we do. All right, let's get some vice grips in here. Okay, so yeah, so the other thing you got to keep in mind down here is where these two flanges meet up. You want them to be fitting properly, right? You can see that the extension right now is a little, 1/8 of an inch lower here, a little more here, but that's because the metal, way the metal shapes, it comes out with this wide flange here for that hook. So this is close. Pushing up the extension a little bit. Once this is ready to weld in, would be the best thing to do, just to get that a little tighter and a little closer to match. But back here, you can see that we've got a match back here, nice, and then down here as well. That just needs to be brought in with the vice grips, but that as well is going to match up nice. And I think up here, really, I don't think I got to do anything to this lip. Once I get it vice gripped in and welded up, I don't think I'll have to do anything there. So I'm happy with that. I think we're ready to try and fit in the bumper brace / bracket, and we could probably get that welded in. Okay, let's do that. Okay, got this bracket all cleaned up. All the edges that are gonna see plug welds are clean. I'm gonna give that a coat of weld through primer along with that edge and that edge, and we'll get this piece welded on like the other side. Okay, we've got our weld through primer on all the surfaces here. Let's go ahead and get this baby welded on. got that all welded in there now. She's good and solid on both sides, so that brace is good to go. Okay, you'll recall from earlier that I had to make a new bracket that goes here that ties in the frame rail brace all the way over to the extension. And so this was the one that I created for the passenger side to mimic the factory piece. And I've just finished making one for the driver's side. Same approach, flange on the bottom that bends out this way, flange over there, and a flange on top. That will give strength from this frame rail brace all the way over to the extension. Not going to weld that in yet because we want to wait until we get the quarter fit to the car, and then we'll tie all this in. Okay guys, I think that's as far as we can go on the extensions until we get the quarter panels fit to the car. Once we do that, then we can tie the extensions to the quarters, the extensions to the trunk floor, weld everything solid and fit properly. So that's our next step. That's where I'll pick you up next week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you then.